Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and today's episode of our What If series is going to be a little bit different because instead of looking and creating our own hypothetical situations in comic books, we're going to be moving over to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and creating our own story there. And today, we're going to ask and answer the question, what if Thor's hammer Mjolnir had not been destroyed prior to Avengers Infinity War? And so let's start out by recapping the status of Thor immediately prior to Infinity War. Now, as most of you guys know, Infinity War starts out immediately after the events of Thor Ragnarok. And as we saw at the beginning of the film, Thor's hammer had been destroyed by Hela prior to Surtur being unleashed and essentially bringing about the end of Asgard, which of course we saw at the end of the movie. Now Thor, Loki, Hulk, and the surviving Asgardians get on a spaceship to escape Ragnarok, and sometime shortly thereafter, their ship is attacked by Thanos. And that's where Infinity War picks up, with Thanos coming on board Thor's ship, and of course, Thor is without his signature weapon, Mjolnir. And so basically at this point, we have to ask, would having Mjolnir have made a difference to what happened in the movie? And in my opinion, the answer to that is an emphatic no. What we do know is that between the mid-credit scene in Ragnarok and the beginning of Infinity War, Thanos and the Black Order have intercepted Thor's ship and somehow incapacitated Thor because he has been completely subdued by the time Infinity War starts. We don't see exactly how this happens, but I feel comfortable saying that Mjolnir wouldn't have made a difference because at this point, Thanos has acquired the Power Stone and is able to single-handedly beat the Hulk so badly that he basically quit, right? He didn't want to come out again. And so taking on Thor, even with Mjolnir, wouldn't be much of a challenge for Thanos. And furthermore, later on, Thanos, without any Infinity Stones, is able to handle Thor wielding both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. So I don't really see Mjolnir making any difference here. So Thor's story arc from here goes the same way as it always did. He's basically adrift in space until he's rescued by the Guardians of the Galaxy. Where our story would start to diverge from the movie is that with Mjolnir still in his possession, Thor likely would not need to go to Nidavellir so that the dwarf Eitri could forge Stormbreaker for him. While Stormbreaker is depicted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as being a superior weapon to Mjolnir, I think it would be unlikely that if Thor still had a weapon as powerful as Mjolnir, that he would waste the time it took to make the journey, nor put himself through the physically torturous process of starting the forge unless he was in desperate need of a weapon. And so how does that change things? Well, without Thor, Rocket, and Groot needing to go to Nidavellir, the Guardians team doesn't have to split up, which means that they'll be at full strength when they encounter Thanos for the first time. Now, if you'll recall, what happens is that the Guardians think they're encountering Thanos in the Collector's Museum and are about to kill the Collector, but it turns out that was a ruse designed to draw Gamora to Thanos so he could take her to Vormir in order to exchange her soul for the Soul Stone. Now by this time, Thanos is in possession of the Reality Stone, which he uses to defeat the Guardians in rapid succession before securing Gamora. And this is another instance where you would ask, would Thor being here make a difference? And again, I think the answer is no. Although Thor is unquestionably more powerful than any of the Guardians, he is still probably not going to be enough to tilt the battle in the hero's favor, especially with Thanos in possession of 3 Infinity Stones. And so I think Thanos is still going to be able to capture Gamora and take her to Vormir and sacrifice her to obtain the Soul Stone. The circumstance just would have happened a little bit differently. Now, where I do think Thor could have made a big difference is on Titan. So this is where the Guardians meet up with Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. And this group is almost able to get the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos using Mandus's ability to mentally subdue him, while Spider-Man and Iron Man try to pry the gauntlet from Thanos' hand, which takes them so long that Peter Quill finds out that Gamora has been sacrificed and screws everything up by breaking Mandus's control over Thanos. I said it, I'll always say it, you'll never hear me believe that I'm wrong about this, I am right about this. Star-Lord Peter Quill basically killed half the universe. It's because of him that half the universe died. Thor shouldn't have been moping around. Thor should have been like, no, this wouldn't have been a problem if it hadn't been for Star-Lord, but I can't punch him because he got dusted, so the best I can do is mope. But regardless, Thor is vastly stronger than both Iron Man and Spider-Man put together, so it's almost certain that he would have been able to get the gauntlet from Thanos' grasp fairly easily. And I'm not overstating things when I say that this changes everything. Once the gauntlet's removed, Doctor Strange creates a portal back to Earth with his sling ring, and then sends Spider-Man through with the gauntlet. From there, the Guardians, Avengers, and Doctor Strange try to battle Thanos, who by now has broken free of Mandus's influence. The heroes are able to gain the upper hand, but Thanos is able to make it back to his ship and escape. The heroes then travel back to Earth to regroup before Thanos' inevitable attempt to regain the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, as these events unfold on Titan, back on Earth, a battle is raging in Wakanda as Thanos' forces try and retrieve the Mind Stone that's housed within Vision's head. And so in the movie, this is the big climactic battle scene of Infinity War. But more importantly, it's where the snap happens that wipes out half the universe's population because of Star-Lord. But without the rest of the stones, Thanos decides to call off his attack and wait for a more strategic time to invade the Earth, since now pressing on and procuring the Mind Stone is too risky, since now the Avengers possess all the stones and the gauntlet, and Star-Lord's not being an idiot. And so when the Avengers and the Guardians reunite on Earth, they begin debating what to do about the Infinity Stone, but determine that it would be beyond their capability without assembling the gauntlet and using the stones to destroy themselves. And so the plan they come up with is that the stones will be separated and guarded by a different member of the team. Shuri separates the Mind Stone from Vision, and so it's stored within a highly secure vault augmented by the most advanced Wakandan technology. Ant-Man shrinks down and hides the Reality Stone within the quantum realm. Thor takes the Space Stone to New Asgard. Nick Fury takes the Power Stone to his secret shield facility and summons Captain Marvel to take the Soul Stone to the far reaches of space with her. Finally, Doctor Strange takes the Time Stone within a pocket dimension he created. And so instead of the whole time travel story with the Avengers trying to procure the stones, we get them trying to secure the stones as they prepare for Thanos' invasion. And so as expected, Thanos brings the entirety of his forces to Earth in an attempt to reunite the stones. And this plays out fairly similarly to what we saw at the end of Endgame, with all of Earth's heroes uniting to repel Thanos' forces. And so we still get the massive battle scene, and in that big battle scene, there are definitely going to be some casualties. And in this way, I think that in this instance, we have a bit more gravitas with the story playing out this way than what we saw in the actual movie, where you had all the super emotional deaths at the end of Infinity War, only for all of them to essentially be undone in Endgame. But during the battle, Thanos' forces unfortunately take out Vision, Hawkeye, and most notably Captain America, who dies at the hands of Thanos without Mjolnir to aid him in that battle, since Thor still has it. However, there are victories for the heroes as well, as Thor manages to strike a killing blow to Corvus Glaive with Mjolnir, Okoye impales Proxima Midnight, the Hulk takes out Cole Obsidian after a hard-fought battle, and Star-Lord doesn't make any stupid choices. Now in the chaos, Thanos is poised to strike down Pepper Potts, who's donned the rescue armor. Iron Man and Spider-Man intervene and begin battling Thanos and save Pepper's life for the moment. However, things quickly go south as Thanos gains the upper hand. Now just as Thanos is about to deliver a fatal blow to Spider-Man, Tony Stark throws himself in front of Thanos' blade in an act of self-sacrifice. Rallied by Tony's death, the Avengers make a final push, but Thanos' forces are too numerous for them to take out until Captain Marvel responds to a distress call put out by Nick Fury and returns to Earth. Now the added firepower that she provides gives Earth forces the necessary strength needed to wipe out the rest of Thanos' forces, and so that just leaves the issue of Thanos himself, and taking him out is no small feat, even without any of the Infinity Stones, keeping in mind that he was without them for most of the battle in Endgame and was still able to defeat nearly everyone who tried to engage him in battle, the notable exception of course being the Scarlet Witch, who's often depicted as being insanely powerful in her comic appearances, but we hadn't really gotten to see her on her powers in full display, up until Endgame, when she literally uses her magical powers to seemingly begin tearing him apart until she's interrupted by some of his minions. But with Thanos' forces neutralized, this paves the way for Scarlet Witch to channel all of her anger over the loss of Vision and to have her moment as the hero that finally takes down Thanos once and for all. And so it's crazy to think that just by having taken away the destruction of Mjolnir from Thor Ragnarok, how much of the plot of Infinity War in Endgame would completely change. I mean, sure, you end up in pretty much the same place with Thanos being defeated and Tony Stark dead, but there wasn't really a way around that, since of course the good guys basically end up winning and Robert Downey Jr. was ready to leave the franchise, although as I understand it, he's ready to come back. But you would eliminate the snap and the 5-year period after it, which would drastically change the landscape of the movie. You don't get Lebowski Thor, which would admittedly be a detriment to the multitude of fans that liked the character because he was awesome, right? Like the Thor abides. And Black Widow doesn't have to sacrifice herself to get the Soul Stone, so her solo movie can actually be a sequel instead of a prequel, which I think would generate a lot more interest, or as much interest as a Black Widow movie can generate. And then you would eliminate the time travel plot from needing to exist, and honestly, although it gives us some cool moments, anytime you bring time travel into the narrative, things have a tendency to get overly messy and sometimes convoluted. Honestly, if things had played out this way, you could possibly streamline everything into a single film, or just allow the battle at the end to dominate the screen time for Endgame. The biggest negative though would be that instead of giving Steve Rogers the happy ending of going back in time and living out a full life with Peggy Carter, in this version of the story, he dies. And so Phase 3 would end on even more of a down note than it already did. But at the end of the day, we still need to provide a way for Chris Evans to exit the franchise as well. But with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think about this, about taking the what if stories from comics that we make up and then also extending it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and making up our own stories for how things would have played out differently in the MCU, because we have all kinds of ideas, right? Like, that's the benefit of making up our what if stories. We can do whatever we want. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.